Welcome to another episode of the AI Edge podcast. We are here to help marketing and advertising professionals stay on top of the AI news and what it all means for our industry. All right, we're here for another episode. We have a really exciting guest with us today who's been in the news a lot lately. And so we are going to make some news with him hopefully here. Kashish Gupta. Kashish, I'll hand it over to you to say a quick few words about who you are and what you do.
Sounds great. Thanks for having me. Kashish Gupta, co-founder and co-CEO of a company called HighTouch. And what we've built is the agentic marketing platform. We work with some of the largest B2C brands, folks like Domino's Pizza, Spotify, and other large brands to help them really just do their marketing end to end in an AI native way. And so looking forward to just jamming on all things MarTech and AdTech. There's a lot changing right now in the industry. And hopefully the three of us can help clarify some things.
Awesome. We're thrilled to have you. And you said three of us, which means there's somebody else here, Miles Younger. Hi, Miles.
Hello.
How are you doing? All right, let's jump into top AI news of the week. So, in our newsletter, we made a pun because there's just unlimited, amounts of puns that you can make with the city name Cannes. So, can we talk about AI this week? Let's do it. Let's jump in. So there was obviously a lot of announcements. It was the Cannes Festival of Creativity in the south of France. A lot of people there, a lot of partnerships announced, new product launches, etc. We do not have time and energy or the knowledge to break down every single one of them because there were too many, but we'll try to hit on some of the top ones and get some hot takes on them. So to start, Amazon launched something called Alexa Plus Agentic Ads. And, Amazon, so to break this down, what this is everyone is familiar with Alexa. It's the voice, activated assistant from Amazon. And now, I think as of a few months ago, they were enabling ads in the kind of conversation back and forth with Alexa. So like if you asked for toilet paper, like they would recommend maybe a particular type of toilet paper based on like who sponsored it or not. So that was already starting to happen. But now with Alexa Plus agentic ads, they are going one step further and they're using the data to basically like change the shopping experience and allow you to natively even check out through Alexa. And there's a lot here. Like Amazon had a bunch of other announcements too, not all tied to Cannes, but there was another announcement that I thought was interesting, which was Amazon is now enabling shoppable ad formats to go across the web on third-party publishers, which is kind of like AdSense in a way, but it's Amazon's ad units and it's shoppable advertising as opposed to like Google AdWords and AdSense kind of melded together. So lots of stuff coming out of Amazon. Amazon, I think over the last few years is just super duper accelerated monetization of every single surface they could possibly have through ads. It started with Amazon Prime Video, and now obviously it's Alexa, it's shoppable ads, et cetera, et cetera. So any quick takes on this, what it all means? Miles, we could start with you on this one. What are your thoughts?
If I'm going to order toilet paper agentically from anyone, it's going to be through my Alexa. I can't say the name or activate her. And I mean, that's a case where I can absolutely see myself shopping that way. And just like, even if like the price doesn't have to be perfect, like the brand doesn't have to be perfect, the sheer convenience factor of me being able to just do that spur of the moment without having to like open my phone, pop open a laptop. So if anybody can pull that off, it's Amazon. I actually had like a side question for you, Kashish, is does HighTouch deal with audio at all? Is like one of the endpoints that your customers are using for marketing activation or customer relationships?
Not yet, no.
Okay, all right. I was curious if you had any inside information on how people are using audio these days, because that's the part that I'm just like, I don't know, is this really going to be a thing, or is this a new habit that people are forming, basically?
Yeah, and I think
yeah. Sorry, Kashish, go ahead.
I was just going to comment. A lot of the folks that are working on audio still tell me that it's not fast enough to that real-time computation.
Yeah.
right? Like what happens is that the agent has to wait for you to finish talking before it can then think about what to sell you and ping Amazon's API and then actually sell you the thing.
Mm,
So right now, what people are working on is agents that can do that parallel processing, where
hmm
as you're talking, it's actually taking those input tokens and processing in real time what it could then serve you, which is
Interesting.
very similar to web experience. Because if you think
Yeah.
about it, as you browse on the web, the sidebars and all these things change dynamically in real time as well.
Yeah. 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 I mean, that's almost like, yeah, reminiscent of whatever the mid 2000s when everything got asynchronous all of a sudden. You're like,
Yeah.
oh, this is actually a lot more useful now.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's great. That's interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, and maybe one
Yeah,
comment to make too is it reminds me of ChatGPT, where ChatGPT now has ads as well. Amazon's obviously always had ads. But there's a slight difference where at least like in a UI, you have a very clear understanding of what is sponsored versus not sponsored.
Hmm
So I'm really curious what Amazon is going to do to make it clear to the consumer what's a paid listing versus an organic listing.
hmm
Because I think like right now, like what I don't want to happen is an erosion of trust. I would really like to make sure that people think of the LLM as truly trained on the public internet, whether it's Alexa with Amazon or whether it's ChatGPT. And then they can have an additional like overlay of sponsored posts, but it shouldn't ideally be pay to play. Ideally, it should be like truly democratized knowledge plus an overlay of pay to play if necessary.
yeah, and in audio, that's difficult, right? Like, what are you gonna have? You're gonna have Alexa kind of say it to you, like, and now for the sponsored, product results, and then that kind of ruins the experience too. And so there's like a balance there that needs to be struck. Okay, that's the first bit. Let's move to the next piece of news. So there was a lot of announcements from WPP, Magnite, Horizon, a bunch of companies just investing more and more of these like agent to agent protocols and infrastructure and products. And it's interesting to see like who's investing in the infrastructure layer of like, hey, we're going to be the ones to enable agents to transact with each other versus like, hey, we're the ones that are actually creating the agents themselves to sit on top of those protocols or that infrastructure. It's interesting to see some of the holdcos and the agencies invest in the infrastructure layer
Mhm.
because in the past, like that's not where the agencies have sat, and that was kind of the crux of the announcements from WPP and Horizon in particular. Actually, WPP was the big kind of infrastructure play. So, I think it's still early. Like what I've heard from most people is agent to agent buying and media buying, planning, all of that stuff is pretty nascent. Like it's more conceptual than it is reality right now. But Kashish, what are you seeing in your world? And you guys are kind of sitting. You're in the mix there, right? Like, so what
Mhm.
are you seeing kind of play out?
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess to address directly WPP and Horizon, I think it's really awesome that they are opening up the railways for people to interact agentically.
hmm
Um, I think that's like very forward looking. And the question will be who's actually ready to interact in that way, which brands are actually capable of this, actually ready for it, or even want this. And I think I feel the same way about this concept for any agent to agent protocol that's being built today. Because you see these all over the place, but I still don't think like they have that much adoption.
Yep.
My take, typically speaking, on AI is how can we provide outcomes
hmm
rather than infrastructure to potentially provide outcomes. And so, what I would want to probably dig into is really like what are the biggest areas where AI can help advertisers? And High Touch's take on that would be for the creative and content pieces. So, like for the past several years, we've helped advertisers do data driven advertising. It turns out when you have unlimited personalization, you also need more content variety
hmm
in order to actually like leverage unlimited personalization. And so content variety is really truly one of the biggest bottlenecks we see. And AI is still really bad at staying on brand. So the number one problem we hear from CMOs is I tried AI in 2025, I'm trying it again in 2026, but no matter which foundation model I use, it's not able to adhere to my brand guidelines, even
Yeah.
when I explicitly state my brand guidelines.
Yeah.
So it's like 60% of people don't have their brand guidelines. The 40% of people that do have brand guidelines written, still AI is not so good at instruction following and determinism. And so it's not adhering to those brand guidelines. And I think that's like something that the ad agencies as well as high touch are all really well poised to solve. And I think that's very difficult software engineering challenge. It's akin to building an API is actually really easy, but building an end product that produces on-brand content every single time with 99.9% accuracy versus 8% accuracy, that's the very classical challenge in AI. How do you get to very strong accuracy in results versus 80% correct results?
Yeah,
Kashish, I,
go ahead.
I I wanted to like dig into this difference between, say, an infrastructure layer versus a activation layer. You could
Mhm.
characterize it a number of different ways. Like, how do you see that? Because, like, yeah, agencies getting into kind of more infrastructure feels like maybe a side quest for them. There's an argument to be made that it's like, no, you guys are services. Like you kind of you're meant to exist at the edge,
Mhm.
to make the best use of the infrastructure. You don't need to make the infrastructure. But like I mean, how does High Touch see that world? How are you forging that distinction?
Yeah, I think our so Hightech would basically make a claim that we need to help marketers do a few things, right? So ideation and insights, which can be vastly more exciting when you have unlimited intelligence at your fingertips.
Hmm.
So it's like we have maybe this much intelligence and we're using a very small piece for actual insight and ideation. So that's like, I think, the P0. Another second thing, once you have this ideation piece, is content generation. And the third piece is media buying and execution. My understanding, to the credit of these agencies, is they want to be there for the media buying step,
Hmm.
regardless of who is doing the media buying, whether it's an agent or a human being or something else. So I think that's really smart, actually, because for them, they don't necessarily need to be opinionated about who's creating the content. It could be a design team, it could be an AI agent, or it could be themselves. But
Yep.
they do need to be opinionated about who's buying the media.
Yeah.
So I think from that regard, it's quite smart. And like the thing I would push agencies as well as consumers and like media buyers on is how can all of this be a true feedback loop that builds like intelligence over time? So maybe right now we have some ad reporting. How can we go from that simple ad reporting to actually like a more AI driven feedback loop where AI is constantly seeing my ad reporting on a per content basis and a per topic basis, and then
Hmm.
developing opinions for what we can do better.
Hmm.
And those opinions should truly be pro consumer. Like I think like the golden state of this is always like how can we use insights to actually drive a better consumer experience where people are actually seeing things that they want to see.
Yep.
Yeah, I think like I mean, it's interesting because we talk. I'm going back to what we were like where we started here, right? Which is AI in marketing and advertising. I think at first came after the lowest hanging fruit, right? And
Mm,
the lowest hanging fruit was like the 80% of planning, of even creative production, of reporting and analytics that AI could kind of bite off and do a decent job with. And then you still need humans for like the remaining 15, 20% of those things, especially creative, to your point,
mhm,
right? Like it's definitely not going to get on brand, even today, most of the time, right? And so AI came after that stuff first. AI is now, I think media buying and execution are perfectly ripe for AI to disrupt it, but it's more complicated because there's a lot more hops, there's a lot more companies involved, there's a lot more technology involved, there's latency involved, there's a lot more commercial
mhm,
interests
exactly.
at play. And I think that has made AI's disruption for like media buying slower. But I actually think there's a huge upside, or there's a huge upshot there in the next few years that we're going to start to see. But it's going to require a lot of this kind of like collective effort, collective
Mhm.
work, protocols, commercial kind of partnerships, things like that, to kind of get the ball moving down the field. You know?
Yeah, I strongly agree with that. And I'll just add my when you go down to like the basics of media buying, the reason I don't believe yet that AI should be doing media buying is because you can't yell at your AI for doing it wrong.
Right.
You
Right,
also
right.
you could turn your AI, but you also can't fire your AI, right? So like having a media agency makes actually a lot of sense to me for media buying. You have a throat to choke for the metric,
Sure.
and
Yep.
someone that you can talk to owns the metric.
Yeah,
So
it's
I
a
think
great
actually that
point.
makes a lot of sense. And the question I would ask is like, is there a way to continue with this kind of human-to-human interaction, but where there's an insights engine that the
Yeah.
agency owns or the brand owns? Either side could own it, both sides could own it together. It doesn't actually really matter. But can this insights-driven engine give us opportunities that then the agency also executes on? I think that would be like the golden state that I would recommend most CMOs and like heads of brand to think about. It's actually to really, really strongly sponsor human in the loop and strongly sponsor human discretion and not to trim down your marketing teams. It's to
Yes.
give these marketing teams like significantly better insights and intelligence that they can still apply their discretion to rather than just letting it run autonomously.
Yeah.
Yeah, great points.
Almost every CMO I talk to is like significantly more bought into human discretion and human decision making than they are into AI making decisions.
Oh,
Yep.
But
sure.
they still want AI to suggest the ideas that we
Oh,
will
yeah.
then have on.
Yep.
Yeah, do the work, suggest the ideas, bring information together, be connective tissue across teams, like all of these things. But then, I mean, that's the big hypothesis, right? In the future, the highest leverage humans are going to be great decision makers, right?
Mhm.
And that's true for marketing. Okay, let's go to the last top story. So this one wasn't like some big deal, but I thought it was interesting, which was Omnicom did a deal with Netflix
Mm.
to basically use AI to place virtually branded products into video content, like in the moment, real time. And yeah, I think we've seen iterations of this type of thing over the years, right? Of just like, oh well, I forget the name of the company. I think like a company called Anoki, right? They're basically looking at real time video content and then basically matchmaking and actually like changing the Coca-Cola bottle somebody is drinking in a Netflix show, or changing the billboard that somebody sees as they drive by. And so I think this is interesting as a use case specifically for AI. Um, I just thought it was interesting to see Omnicom partnering with Netflix to do something like this, and I was wondering like where the technology was coming from too, because they didn't make that clear in the press release. It's like, okay, well, where's Omnicom doesn't have that tech. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure Netflix probably doesn't have that tech, but they didn't say who the technology layer was, or. So, anyways, any quick hits on that? Any thoughts on that one?
That's too bad for whoever's providing that technology.
Yeah, yeah,
I feel
yeah,
bad for them now, Chip. I
yeah.
I was just gonna say that I, I I don't. I mean, have we collectively as an industry seen evidence to date that that type of dynamic placement works? It's not a new concept. Like, there's new ways of doing it now with AI, generative AI. Make it a lot more efficient. But I've always been super skeptical of like reducing the craft of advertising down to like where everything is a spot market. And I just
Hmm.
don't, even from a media theory perspective, I'm not sure that works. That you can just, I think even the act of having a break to see an ad helps the ad be more effective. When you hide the ad in the content, there's an argument to be made. You're actually making the ad less effective because the user's not even aware that it's a promotion. And so you're like shooting yourself in the foot. You're spending promotional budget,
Yeah.
but it's not being couched in a promotional context. And so it'd be interesting to see if that works. But I just am like, I don't know. I feel like we've been doing this for like 5, 10 years in other ways.
Yeah, I agree. That makes sense. Kashish, any thoughts on that? Or
Yeah,
pass?
like,
You
it's
can
been
say
really,
pass.
really, really interesting take from Miles. I have nothing else to add there.
Cool. All right, rock and roll. Let's go to quick hits of the week. So just a couple of things to note here. Actually, I already hit on the Amazon conversational ad, so I'm skipping that one. Zeta and Palantir did a 7-year deal where Zeta is going to be basically cross-selling its Martech and cloud, infrastructure um, solutions to Palantir customers, and Palantir is going to be, providing some underlying technology for Zeta's products. And actually, I would love your thoughts on this one, Kashish, because like, first of all, do you view yourself as a competitor to Zeta, or are you guys complementary to what Zeta offers? And then, yeah, like, what are your initial thoughts on this deal? if you
Yeah, I'd
have
love to
any.
understand more about it. So, I mean, Zeta, we see as two things, right? We see it as a DSP of sorts, where they're an ad server, but we also see it as a email platform. To the extent that
Yep.
it's an engagement platform and CDP, we do compete with Zeta. To the extent that they're like a DSP where you can buy ads and media from them, we're not a competitor to them, and we would actually integrate.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I'm actually really just curious for your take on what the AI technology will do, because I think Palantir with Foundry can do anything. It's the same
Yep.
as saying like you could just serve OpenAI's models, or like I guess in this case it would be like Claude's models from Foundry. But I'm really curious what you think that they're going to do with the actual underlying models.
So I started reading this and my mind started going in weird directions of mostly confusion.
Hmm.
I was mostly confused when I was reading the story because I didn't quite understand like what the companies are providing to each other from a technology standpoint. What I did pick up on, because I'm more of a commercial person anyways, and just like, okay, well, one big part of the press release was Zeta very openly saying like, we now get to sell our solutions to Palantir's customers who are just not our customers today. And a lot of these customers are like they're government agencies,
Or,
right? They're they're just like totally out of our ICP, and Palantir is willing to bring us over to them now as part of this arrangement. And that to me was fascinating because you know, why why is Palantir interested in doing that in
sure.
this arrangement and in this agreement? Like the commercial aspect of that wasn't completely clear. So, anyways, I was left more confused, and I was hoping you would
Yeah, I
help me understand it.
I guess I think I saw it as the opposite. I saw
Okay.
it as like Zeta has these customers,
Yep.
and they want to build some sort of ontology or AI foundation for those customers. And so they're leveraging Palantir's technology in the back end to provide to their customers. And so I think
Okay.
the idea would be like if I use Zeta as my CRM and my engagement tool and my DSP, then can Palantir help me build an ontology that I can then like use to basically build some intelligence on top of this data?
Yep.
Obviously, that assumes that Zeta has all the data for that brand.
Hmm.
But in theory, if Zeta has all the data, then they do need some sort of ontology on top of it and then some sort of intelligence on top of it,
Yep.
which in this case Palantir would provide. But I don't think I see it as, yeah, I don't think I see it as Palantir bringing Zeta into customers. I think of it more as Zeta has decided to leverage Palantir under the hood
Yeah.
as the AI platform.
Yeah, I'm using AI to parse this out for me. I think you're right. I think we're both right, Kashish.
Yeah.
Like it's saying, there's Palantir's, tech in the background will help Zeta deploy AI and agents into these large enterprises,
Hmm.
in a more secure way. And then the flip side of that is the commercial go-to-market. Palantir will actively support Zeta's sales efforts by offering their marketing intelligence solutions directly to Palantir Foundry enterprise customers. So that seems to be like the crux, like the exchange, the value exchange. Um, I still don't quite know what Palantir gets out of this, other than maybe just like a big check. And I don't know what the size of that check looks like. So
Yeah.
And you talked about them on this podcast. They got that out of it.
yeah, there you go. They
Yeah,
get
the press
some
release worked.
visibility. There you go. Okay, that was supposed to be a quick hit of the week, and we spiraled. Okay, Kashish, let's get into high touch world. You guys, like, we could probably just fill an entire podcast just talking about you guys. You've been all over the news in the last several months. I'm just gonna tell the audience some of the things you guys have been in the news for, and then let's hear your thoughts on this stuff. So, first of all, you've done a bunch of product launches. You launched Ad Studio, which, I view you guys traditionally, you were a CDP, the first kind of composable CDP, and now you're going into these new areas. So you launched an AI driven creative tool called Ad Studio. You launched Lifecycle Studio, which I would love you to help us understand a little bit better. And then you were in the news for some really cool stuff. First of all, you did a massive fundraise. So you raised, I forget the number, but it was at a $2.75 billion
Hmm.
valuation, which is just astronomical growth. Because I remember, I don't know, 6 months ago, you guys raised that at like $1 billion, and now
Hmm.
you're at 2.75, which is just amazing. Congrats, you're crushing it. And then the other thing, the other big piece of news was you made an offer to LiveRamp. or sorry, to Publicis, who bought
Mm-hmm.
Live, apparently is buying LiveRamp,
Right. Yeah.
for the identity aspect of their business. And then last thing is you kind of rebranded a little bit into becoming, not just a composable CDP or marketing automation platform, but more so an agentic
Mm-hmm.
data marketing platform or agentic CDP, which Databricks also announced kind of at the same time. So
Mm-hmm.
this is all the high touch news that I could find, which is a lot from the last like couple of months. Did I miss anything, Kashish?
I think that's spot on. That's quite a few things. Yeah.
Okay, it's a lot of
Um,
things. You guys have been busy. Um, so where do you want to start? Which one of those pieces of news should we start to unpack?
yeah, maybe we can start with agentic CDP, and then we can
Okay,
go to the like lifecycle marketing and advertising studios.
great, love it.
So I think there's fundamentally like three things that encompass most of marketing right now. You have insights and data, which we would classify as agentic CDP. You have lifecycle marketing, which has a vast amount of things. You have SMS, email, push, in-app, and so on. But there's all this orchestration for lifecycle marketing. And then you have advertising. And so we'll just say like these are the three things. We won't include ad sales in this. We'll just say advertising is media buying. But these are like kind of like the three things. And our opinion is that AI and data can help in very different ways to make these three things better. And so we kind of for the last several years, right, we built what we call a composable CDP. The idea was that we actually turn your existing customer 360 or customer database into a place where you can do segmentation, journey orchestration, and activation. So we gave marketers access to the data they already had, which sounds crazy, but most marketers had a bunch of data and weren't
Hmm.
really accessing it and using it day to day for their marketing. That was the last 5 years of our journey. And then we now have these unlimited intelligence entities that we call AI agents that can actually do work 24/7. So what we found is once you build this semantic understanding of your customer data and the railways to actually activate on it with audiences, journeys, and activation pipelines, um, most of the marketers we work with said, hey, look, you're a great tool for doing what I already know I need to do. I want to do abandoned cart. You'll do abandoned cart extremely
Hmm.
well. But what if I don't know what I need to do? What if I need ideas and suggestions and insights on which customers to target and what campaigns to run and what's working and not working? Can you help me actually generate those insights autonomously? And so that customer demand resulted over the last 2 years in us building what we call the agentic CDP. And the agentic CDP is inherently a proactive customer data platform. It The idea is you would wake up every morning with the top 5 opportunities in your inbox of how you can make your marketing better, your customer experience better, or make more money. And we would then allow human discretion to decide which of those opportunities we actually tackle. And the agentic CDP would autonomously tackle those opportunities for you
Mhm.
through the actual campaigning and execution.
So it's ideation. The agents handle the ideation and kind of pulling all the information together, pose it to the human.
Yep,
The human says yes or no, and then the agents then continue on to execute.
exactly. Spot on. Yeah.
That's
And
awesome.
it's a different paradigm because typically a marketing tool is a place you go where you're like, great, I've been working on this campaign for a month. Let me execute it now. Now I should be the place where you go to think about and ideate like which campaigns you think you want to run and what might work. And then you use discretion and then it helps you execute.
Got it.
And so that brings me to the how do we help you execute? So
Yep.
execution is two components. It has orchestration, which is mostly software. And then it has the most important component, which is the actual content and creativity. So if you ask marketers, what do they value and what do we think matters? Content is king. The best
Hmm.
content will always win. The best technology will help on the margins, but the best content will always win. And so that's why we built these two studios, which are lifecycle and advertising studios, to help marketers ideate and actually build on brand content for their campaigns. And so I could be any sort of like large fashion brand, and maybe my agentic CDP has decided or found out that I have this class of customers that are very high LTV and I have no content for those customers. Maybe they are people over 50 years old that have a lot of spending power, but all my advertising is for people that are 20 to 50.
Hmm.
Great. I should now build a new set of content for this That's not easy, actually. That requires the AI to say, here's an opportunity. Then it requires my brand director to go hire um, new models to take new images of, and
Mm-hmm.
then a design and creative team to work together on actually building out this new content. So how can we insert AI into this entire workflow? It's not just like you ping Gemini, you get new content. As Miles said, that probably doesn't work. You probably will generate hallucinated content that doesn't really look on brand. So it's really about this end-to-end journey, and then using AI to actually like execute against that. I think that's where, as you mentioned, Shiv, it doesn't yet really matter whether AI can buy the media or not. I think everything up until that point is still like 8 to 18 weeks of work that we
Mm-hmm.
think could be streamlined in today's. So
Uh,
I think a good summary would be like agentic CDP is the insights layer. Ad Studio helps you generate on-brand content and run that content in production. And then lifecycle marketing helps you agentically generate your emails and your SMS. So it's very similar to what you might see from some of these email platforms, but it's like really just purpose built to do the on-brand email generation. What we find is everyone can do text.
mm-hmm.
Uh, when it comes to emails, the actual HTML and templating is really hard to get on brand. Same
Mhm.
thing goes for ads. Image and video is really hard to get on brand. And so we've really spent the last 18 months tuning models that can make image and video and emails on brand.
Wow. So Kashish, like putting all of that under an umbrella, like how do you and the team conceive, how do you draw the boundaries around what high touch is going to be? Because you started as a relatively niche
Yep.
offering, sort of a composable warehouse native CDP. Great market for that, great product, great market to be in, but you've grown beyond that. And so, like, partly
Yep.
I'm asking, like, what's your conception of like the stopping point? We're like, okay, this is what we're gonna own. Because you just
Yeah.
described a lot of stuff across a lot of different areas of marketing.
Yeah. So I would honestly just tell you the truth, which is that if it's a marketing problem, we'll probably solve it.
Hmm.
And the question is just when.
Hmm.
And can we and will we stay true to our core value, which is portability and like integration? So I think the way we view the world is marketers want an end-to-end platform that can help them with any of their marketing activities, but they also want best of breed. So what
Hmm.
this means to high touch is if the customer wants to, let's say, use Adobe Campaign or Adobe Journey Orchestration within this workflow with high touch, they
Yeah.
should 100% be able to. And we should build integration such that we work just as well with Adobe as well as we do with our own technology. That way, like we're not forcing customers to lift and shift from an existing architecture to a new one. We're just
Hmm.
doing the things that they don't do today and adding value. If ultimately they decide to move everything over to high touch, that sounds great, and we'll help them do that as well. But that should not be a core requirement. And I think like that's what's burned marketers over the last 10 or 20 years. It's that every platform wants to do everything.
Hmm.
You now have to go through the 5-year journey of actually adopting that stuff. So
Hmm.
what if instead you only adopted the things that were valuable? So I'll give you a very clear example. Could you use high touch for audiences and journeys and email generation? Yes. But let's say you already have an audience builder or journey builder, and all you really want is agentic email generation. We can 100% provide that to you. We can integrate it for you into Iterable, Braze, SFMC, or any email tool you have. And we can just do the thing that's like net new and highly valuable to you. And actually doing that thing is hard. We have to ingest every one of your emails in the past, tag those, look at your CMS and your DAM, and build a vector database on top of that. And then we'll agentically generate your emails. So there's a lot of infrastructure work we do to do this one thing. And we're very happy to just do that one thing and provide you value there. So I think our view of the world is any problem marketers give us, we're going to be very happy to solve over some time scale, but in a very portable and extensible way so that you don't have to lift and shift.
Hey, so Kashish, I want to so I totally hear you, and I love that vision. I think I would love your thoughts on. I agree with the statement that every platform wants to be everything to marketers, especially
Mhm.
the big ones, and especially today in the era of AI. I think everyone feels like they have the permission to be everything to everybody. because AI democratizes so much of this technology. And then B, like they can quickly, speed to market is just faster and faster and faster with like creating new products and
Mhm.
tools using AI as your kind of like as your booster to get products to market, right? So everybody wants to be everything, whether that's Salesforce, whether that's Snowflake, whether that's Google, whether that's agencies, right?
Mhm.
Whether that's you guys, like everybody wants to be everything, and AI
Mhm.
is the great accelerator of that. Now, the issue, I think, if you're a marketer, is like not everybody, not every company or platform seems as altruistic as you guys, at least in theory, on like where they're willing to be interoperable
Mhm.
and port things back and forth, and then that creates issues for marketers, right? And so like, and I'm sure you've run into that, right? Where
Mhm.
you're like, hey, we're happy to be anything to everybody, but in order for us to do that, we have to play nice with all of these other platforms and companies. But then the commercial people come into the meeting and they're like, sorry, we're not playing nice. Like, so where does I don't even know where I'm going
Mhm.
with this. Like, you kind of hear what I'm saying, right? Like,
Mhm.
how does that kind of disrupt your vision? I guess is what I'm asking, if it does at all.
Yeah, I think at the moment, like it anything can happen, right? But I think like people vote with their feet. And so what happens is maybe some company will say, I'm not going to make this available as an integration. I'm not going to serve an MCP. I'm not going to serve an API. You have to use my everything closed ecosystem. But what will ultimately happen is they'll have 10 enterprise customers that won't be okay with that.
Yeah.
And those customers will demand API access. And it's up to those customers who uses that API, whether it's like themselves and some like interface they build or whether it's high touch.
Yeah,
And so our ultimate belief is that even if there is some trepidation short term, that long term an open ecosystem is necessary because a lot of these customers have a lot of budget that they command with these vendors. That's our belief, and I hope to be correct about that belief, but I can't guarantee it.
yeah.
Um,
I mean, it's
yeah,
a
I
leverage
guess,
game, right?
right,
It's a ongoing game of leverage between the vendors and the buyers.
yeah.
That's the,
And
yeah.
again, I'll give you another clear example of this. I just described a pretty novel way that Hightouch does content gen that's on brand.
Mhm.
Yet, we don't claim to or want to build the DAM or the CMS. We read from Adobe and we write to Adobe.
Right.
Or any
Hmm.
DAM we choose. Contentful doesn't really matter. Like any DAM we'll just read and write from, which is actually exactly what marketers want. They have zero
Yeah.
desire to like go and do a lift and shift of the DAM they spent 10 years building. What they want is for Hightouch to add tags to the DAM they already have and to upload net new content to the DAM they already have. So I think like it's just like natural that this kind of interface will continue to get better and better. And
Yeah.
then it's also possible that some companies will go for closed ecosystem, and then those companies will become like losers over time in terms of customer demand.
Hmm.
I wonder, I mean, my brain always goes towards paid ads, and it's the Amazons and the Googles and the Metas of the world, like, will probably never play nice. And
Yeah.
they hide behind the data privacy thing a little bit. Um, but they're always going to be sitting there as like, hey, they have a ton of leverage because they have a lot
Mhm.
of really, really, really valuable consumer data. Um, but if they're not going to play nice, like who's willing to kind of say, I'm okay, I'm okay not using Meta for something or Google for something,
Yeah.
right? They're the 300-pound gorilla that everyone's got to deal with and overcome in some shape or form.
That's a great point. If you own the eyeball, I think you have a lot of leverage. And so I think even ChatGPT and Anthropic soon
Hmm.
will have that same leverage over advertisers.
Yeah.
And then obviously like the trade desk is much more open and wants to give back that telemetry and data to the brands.
Yep.
So I think like the best we can hope for is really like if it's first party data, brands should own it and then be able to do whatever they want with it.
Hmm.
But yeah, I don't
Yeah.
foresee the third party data is changing.
Yep. Okay. Tell us about your live ramp play. Well, let's close on
Yeah.
that. So what's the thinking? Why'd you guys make that offer? Like, is there any traction? Are we going to break some news here on the podcast? Like, are you getting it from Publicis? Does Publicis have cold feet on the deal? What's going on over here?
Yeah. So I can't comment on the actual deal itself
Okay.
or anything from Publicis. But I can talk about like our intention behind it.
Okay.
Um, LiveRamp has a data asset, and our desire is to buy just the data asset piece of the company.
And
Um,
can you explain the specific asset a little bit more in detail?
right. So it would be their identity spine. And the idea would be like they have this identity spine that they've sold um, to many, many different brands.
Yep.
And could we just adopt that identity spine and make it part of HighTouch? It's typically an identity spine that was based on third-party cookies and
Yep.
RAMP ID.
Yep.
And so the idea would be for HighTouch to own that identity spine for the purpose of like making it accessible and like giving it to the HighTouch customer base. So
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I think like
Okay.
right now it's like you kind of have like two businesses with LiveRamp, right? You have the identity business, and then you have the rest of their business, and then you have all the employees. We'd still want Publicis to keep the rest and the employees, which would include the data collaboration and data cleanroom business,
Okay.
and their cross media intelligence, which is like also for data collaboration. But I think like live ramp ID would be really kind of up in the air. It's something that we would have to figure out
Yeah.
because I think Publicis would in theory want that, and we would in theory want that as well.
Yeah. I
Eh,
mean, I go ahead, Miles.
well, Kashish, can you expand a bit on like I can see how the ecosystem as a whole might benefit from high touch taking that identity spine and keeping it agnostic, neutral.
Yes.
What's in it for Publicis to sort of separate that? Like how do you think about like so characterize sort of like there's the identity spine and there's everything else.
Right.
What you're saying is it would imply that the everything else has a ton of value for Publicis, and that's the part that I don't. I
Mhm.
literally I'm asking this out of ignorance, not that I've got
Mhm.
some like fully formed opinion. What's the value of all that other stuff?
Um, I think the data collaboration actually is extremely valuable. It's not really part of our core business, but I think where it would show up particularly is peer data sharing between brands and advertisers, or sorry,
Okay.
advertisers and ad networks.
Okay.
So a lot of these agencies, for example, are actually running media networks and retail media networks,
Uh-huh.
and marrying the data between the ad sales and the media buying
Yeah.
becomes really interesting because
Yeah.
then you get real intent,
Yeah.
as well as all of the telemetry and integrations.
Yeah.
So we are unique, right? Because we've already built most of the integrations that LiveRamp has built. Those could be really helpful to a company like Publicis. We also have an identity spine, and we compete pretty regularly with LiveRamp. So
Uh-huh.
for us, it's not really about getting the identity spine either.
Yeah.
It's more just that they have this set of very, very like a very large set of customers that are maybe not Publicis customers, and so we'd want to help those customers stay neutral
Yeah.
and be able to like continue having choice and not really be told in one direction or another.
Yeah.
Cool. I have so many more questions about this potential deal, but we don't have time for all of them. So I guess my last question for you is tell us about the Databricks thing. We'll end on the
Yeah.
Databricks thing because I thought that was fascinating. I think like the announcements happened within the same week where you guys said, "Hey, we're an agentic CDP," and Databricks said the same
Mhm,
thing. They're
mhm.
coming at it from a different place, but are you guys kind of meeting in the middle? Like, that's fascinating to me.
Yeah. So I mean, we've known about Databricks building this for about a year.
Okay.
We knew, and I think like net, we're pretty excited. So let me give you like kind of like how we think about it because I think the market thinks about it differently.
Okay.
How we think about it is high touch is only usable if you build a strong customer 360 in a place like Databricks,
Yep.
Snowflake, Synapse, and so on.
Yep.
And so we've always wanted for Databricks to build things like identity resolution and ingest capabilities and just things that make it easier to onboard and get customer data in there.
Yeah.
We think Databricks is a great option for that. So are Snowflake and BigQuery. And so we think like the warehouse slash customer data lake is where data lives and should continue to live. But that high touch is where marketing gets done. And most people would probably either agree or be able to agree with the fact that marketers don't log into Databricks today. And we don't foresee that they will change and start logging into Databricks tomorrow. We foresee that marketers will want a purpose-built tool where they can do kind of their end-to-end workflow. And that purpose-built tool should integrate really closely with Databricks. So I think Databricks Customer Lake is a massive threat to CDPs that store data.
Right.
Because those CDPs should not have existed in the first place. And we have been spending the last 5 years trying to put those CDPs out of business. This just helps further in doing that, because now you can even furthermore build your actual Customer 360 in Databricks and not use a CDP that stores data. I think like Adobe and Salesforce, for example, would like to be that data lake. And now you have even less reason to use them as that data lake. But as the marketing layer still is Salesforce or Adobe or Hightouch. And like these are the three that like kind of compete with each other. And then Databricks is the data foundation that none of us really compete with, in my opinion. And I think that's how it's going to pan out. So even if Databricks does build their audiencing capability, which they announced a couple weeks ago, and some of their other capabilities, net, there's still a lot of marketing surface area left that they're not going to build. And I think will be up for grabs, especially as an AI native solution starts existing, which would be Hightouch. Yeah, so that's our perspective, and we're continuing to partner with Databricks. So we have always partnered with Databricks. We're going to keep doing that. There might be confusion in the field. I think that really is unfortunate, where like their reps and our reps are confused about which one to sell. But our job provide clarity on, hey, look, like we still co-sign on using Databricks, and we want Hightouch to be the layer on top of that makes marketers use the thing.
Yeah.
And then having the agentic marketing platform with the content generation, the execution, and the channels will be just another reason for Databricks reps to know when to bring in Hightouch, because they know that that layer is another tool outside of Databricks.
Makes sense. No smoke. I was hoping for more smoke. Oh well.
No, we're it's just
shut
like,
it down.
yeah, we respect those guys immensely.
Yeah. Awesome. Hey, Kashish, this was awesome. Thanks for being on the pod. Really appreciate you. Keep it up. You guys are, again, just rocket ship crushing it. Thank you for sponsoring our last AI accelerator. I think you guys presented Ad Studio in one of the sessions, and people were thrilled about it. They were really leaned in and thought it was a really cool product. I personally think it's so cool to kind of have an ad creation product sitting so closely with the customer's data, with the marketer's data. It just makes tons of sense. And so kudos to you guys for always pushing the envelope and being innovative. Thanks again. Thanks for being on the pod.
Yeah, thanks for having us. And yeah, just looking forward to the rest of 2026.
Yep. All right. Thanks, Miles. Thanks to our listeners. We'll see you guys again in a couple weeks.
Thank you.